Welcome back, everybody, to the AnythingOU Podcast with your boy, Chris and Drew. As always, I am your host, Christian Williams. I've got my main man, my co-host, Drew England. Drew, how you doing, man?
I'm great, man. It's another great day to be a Sooner. As always, every day ending in Y is a great day to be a Sooner. So, hey, can't complain. I'm blessed. Hope everything's good with you. So
yes, sir. Hey, but before we get into the video with Chris Plank, we have to tell you about our sponsor, www.hornsdownshop.com. If you want to go pick up any of your cool OU gear that you cannot get on Campus Corner or anywhere else, and you want to support our guy, Deshaun White, you can do so in the first couple links in the description, and you can even support us too. We'd really appreciate it if you guys go check them out, and let's get in the video. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. You might notice a very familiar face around OU Sooner Nation, Mr. Chris Plank. Little introduction if you just so happen to not know who this beautiful face is. Chris Plank has been a veteran of play-by-play and sports talk radio for over 20 years. Plank hosts the Plank Show from 9 to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday on KREF in Oklahoma. On weekends, Plank serves as the co-host of Fox Sports Sunday with Annie Spanier and has been a regular on SiriusXM Big 12 Radio, ESPNU, and Mad Dog Sports Radio. Chris, how are you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Thank you guys for having me. It's a good week for me because I don't have a lot going on, and I kind of wear that title of always being a busy guy. But for these next 2 weeks, I kind of don't have a lot going on. Give the voice some time to recover after.
There you go.
After yelling for home run after home run after home run for months and weeks and years, so it's a fun week, man. I'm really glad you guys invited me on. Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
History
yes.
too, right? First
yes,
two-time guest in the history of the pod.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we had him. We had those of you who haven't seen it, go back and watch the preview. You can kind of this one and that one will be a good video to watch. We previewed the Sooner softball season with Chris Plank, and then now we're regionals just finished up into supers, and here we go. So,
hey, man, I couldn't be more excited. I remember. Well, we'll get into all of that. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Chris, give us as far in depth as you went into it. Little check-in, catch up. What have you been up to, man? I know
softball. That's what I've been up to is Sooner softball. And it's been great. I mean, I've got the sunburn to go with it. I am, I really, it's kind of funny. People say, man, it seems like you work a lot of shows, you do a lot of things. And I have to, because my daughter's into horses. I've got a son that's going to college, and I got a younger daughter that is into everything that costs money. But in all seriousness, from February to June, it is all softball, man. It starts with our first trip, which is usually the second week in February. And typically it coincides with the week after the Super Bowl. But now that the NFL has pushed its schedule around, we were actually in LA playing our first series of the season. I think that was the week I came on with you guys.
Yeah.
When the Super Bowl was there. So it's cool. So it's been a lot of softball. We my family and I, we're proud Goldsby, Oklahoma residents. Our kids go to Washington High School. In fact, as I'm talking to you guys, I literally just came back from watching the Washington spring game. So I was out taking some football, whatever I could for the mighty Warriors, and it's been a fun couple of months. My son just graduated from high school, so that's been great.
Congratulations
to see. Thank you. I was I think the only person in Oklahoma who was in Tulsa and didn't get to go to Southern Hills last week. Drew, you were there, right?
Yeah, I made it out a couple times. I'm actually a resident of Tulsa now. So catching up with you a little bit, I'll share some more stuff with you and stuff like that. But yeah, we got to go out, me and some buddies, and had some fun and watch some great golf, and that was awesome. Of course, I love to play golf. Christian does the same. For us to have it in Tulsa again was awesome. And then one of my favorite golfers, Justin Thomas, ended up with the Watermaker. So it ended for a good week for me. So.
And I love the story that Justin Thomas told where he had shanked a shot in his final round. He's like, listen, I hit a ball like 100 yards, and I still ended up winning it. And then, of course, he had to take a shot at Jimbo, which made it even better. So
that was awesome. Today, I don't know, Christian, you got a chance to see that, but that was great. Yeah. That was gold.
Chris, one of the things that I just thought about, because you mentioned Washington spring game, I wanted to hear your brief reaction to our spring game. 75,000 people showed up. What was your reaction?
A lot of people. There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It was really cool because I had, that usually I don't get to do a lot around the spring game. And again, I'm fine because it's softball. That usually takes responsibilities away from me. But this is, I want to say, the second or third straight year where I've got to go to the spring game, right? And I've got to immerse myself in it. Now, I didn't get there right away. I had to come a little bit late because softball just wrapped up, and getting in the stadium was ingress and egress was a bit of a challenge. But I want to say a big thank you, by the way, to all the Sooner fans who realized I had a job to do, and everyone was so cool. I know they'd been waiting in line, but everyone was so cool when we come. I'm like, I gotta go. I'm sorry. I'll buy you guys a beer or something when I see it. I'm sorry. I'll buy you dinner.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of let me in. It was cool. But I probably did something you don't typically do at a spring game, which is really dork out on how the coaches were setting things up at the sidelines, right? And I know it was two separate sidelines, and I know that it's going to be different when the season comes around. But for me, that's kind of the lifeblood of being a sideline guy, right? Is understanding, where the conversations are, where the communication is, what I can give to Ted and Toby that listeners might not get. So I see even if they're in the stadium. So it was really cool to watch Todd Bates interact with his guys. It was really cool to watch, Brent Venables go back and forth. It was really cool to watch Miguel Chavis and Brandon Hall work with their guys. So I learned a lot. I had a blast. I thought Dylan Gabriel looked really good. I'm excited to see him to continue to evolve and grow. And I think they've got some dudes on defense. So yeah, I mean, listen, I haven't been able to put the attention towards it I want, but in a lot of ways, I feel like with the energy that Brent Venables has brought and the caravan stops, it's demanded your attention, and I love it. So it's been really fun to see a program, but maybe not a program, but a fan base, and you guys live it as much as anyone, if not more. That went from as down as we were that night of Bedlam and that next Sunday to the excitement level that we feel right now. It's unparalleled and it's awesome.
Yeah. I think for all of us, I mean, it was a cool environment that weekend because a lot of us that engage and do all that Twitter spaces and everything like that, we all got to kind of hook up and hang out and meet each other. And it was pretty cool to see just how, Sooner Athletics and our fandom, creates family. And that was really cool for us. I think that was my biggest takeaway, was getting to meet all these cool people that I've been able to interact with on Twitter and social media and stuff like that. And for them to show support towards our podcast and for us to show up like we did, I think BV threw out the challenge to the fan base, and we came out in droves. So it was great.
Responded. It was awesome. It was really fun, man. It was it's one of the best environments I've been a part of, and I would even say beyond, like, it was like a game day. And even better, I'll take that crowd over what I've seen for some Kansas games and some Ball State games. And, I'm sure Baker's trophy dedication had a lot to do with it, and that's fine. But I also think Brent Venables telling the fans they need to get out there had a lot to do with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
for sure.
100%. Yeah. Hey, so, we kind of got into a little bit about softball and how we brought you on for the preview and all that fun stuff. Give us because I know you got to go to Hawaii and a bunch of cool places to see a particular record be broken. So can kind of give us your season recap, if you will?
Okay. How much time we got?
We got a while. Okay.
Hey, however much time you need.
I'll need a minute here. It's one of the coolest seasons that I've ever been a part of, and for so many reasons. You mentioned the trip to Hawaii. And, I would even rewind further, the opening weekend trip to LA. And there's all these little things that I don't think matter to people that are tuning in. They're like, I don't care about your road trip, Plank. I want to know if we're going to win a national championship. Hold on. As Patty Gasso has taught us, the joy is in the journey. And the journey with this team has been incredible. Go back to the opening weekend, right? They get that big game against UCLA. That crowd was crazy for that game. It was great. And you had so many of these women played on this field when they were playing travel ball that they were playing on. And suddenly you've got a national television audience that is there, or that is watching around the world, in the Mark Campbell Classic. It was really, really cool to see. And we're in LA when the Super Bowl's going on. And I think we got a chance to travel from Santa Barbara, and we went all the way to back to LA. It was a really fun trip for someone who kind of grew up wanting to live in California. And so then as soon as you get through that, the attention starts turning to, let's see Jossie break this record, right? And you get through that weekend, you beat UCLA, you realize, all right, this is A, this Jordy Ball girl is pretty special, and B, this team has a chance to be, if not as good, maybe even better than what they had last year. And to remind everyone about last year's team, they set a record for the most home runs ever hit by a team in college softball history. Now, they're not going to break that this year, but it kind of gives you an idea of just how, incredible last year was and how good this year is. So we go to LA, then we come back and we hit Houston. And what's kind of wild about Houston is we've been down there before, and it's a fun trip. There's a couple of, Nicole Mendez was always someone that wanted to go to Houston, and I don't think she ever got to play. She had COVID her senior year and then got hurt her freshman year. But yeah, Tria Coleman is a Houston girl. A lot of Texas girls, Jada Coleman, who their family it's a little bit closer. So Houston's always really fun to me, and I feel like we always get good games when we go there. What I didn't expect was for Jocelyn Alo to almost break the record there. And I got to be honest with you, I don't think any of us were, and I've told this story a lot. But if you go back to the home run before she tied the record, I was off. I was off one home run. I literally was. I mean, I'm like, that's one, because the record was 96. I'm like, so she hits 94. And Pat Dunn, who is the SID, was right next to me. He goes, that's 95. That's because we're all suddenly on panic. It's like, oh my gosh, that's her fourth home run today. And then when she ties the record the next day, suddenly you're like, okay, we got to hit hyperdrive here. She's got a chance to break this thing. And so then starts kind of, it wasn't quite a month, but it starts a stretch of games where teams just stopped pitching to her. The Mary Nutter Classic it was tough. You went through a process with, there's 5 games there. They came home for the Minnesota game. You went 6 games where they walked her every single time. They never really gave her a chance. And that was frustrating. I think there was a bye weekend that was in there too. But when we got to Hawaii, you kind of got this sense that it was different, right? And it was almost kind of a meant to be type thing. And there was all this debate about would they throw to her. You have the ridiculous situation with the Cal Bears, whom, it's like an 8-zip game, and there's a runner on, and there's, it's 8-0, and they intentionally walk her in an 8-zip game. So it was almost like it was set up to where it was meant to be to break the record against Hawaii. So yeah, I don't even have the words to describe how awesome that was. Sorry, my daughter coming in. I don't even have the words to describe how awesome that was. Because when she breaks the record, it's so late in the States, and you just had this feeling that it was the moment, right? And the funny thing about that night is we ended up going so long on our post-game show that the bus actually left us. It had to stop, and Grant Wade and I had to hustle down to catch the bus because we were just so enamored with it. But you know what? I could sit here and talk about everything in conference play. I could talk about everything that went on after that, but just everything about that almost week we spent in Hawaii was incredible. From where we stayed to going to Jocelyn's grade school and then seeing her hometown. There was a really cool thing that the parents did where they had rented out a place and they had us over for dinner. It was really memorable. And again, it doesn't matter in the whole scheme of things for what happens or what could happen this weekend, but it's just part of what's been an incredibly joyful journey to follow this team in 2022 and what's been a really, really fun group. There's been nerve-wracking moments, there's been frustrating moments, but in the end, it's a team that I feel like is peaking and still has its best softball in front of it.
Yeah. Well, and then something we discussed too on the preview of the season was, can this team live up to expectations? Can this team be better than they were last year? And I mean, boy, we're trending in that direction,
Yeah, and you know what's wild is that's still an unanswered question, right?
Yeah.
Because if they get beat twice this weekend and they don't go back to the Women's College World Series, it's wild to say, but there'll be people that will tell you, hey, this wasn't a successful season because, dude, that bar is so high. It's so high for this team, and that's fine. That's what Patty Gasso, it's the championship mindset. It's what it's all about. It's flawless execution. It's being the best when you're not at your best. So yeah, it's a great point, Drew, because it's hard to match winning a national championship. Look at the regionals right now. I got my bracket right here in front of me. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that we're hosting this past weekend that aren't moving on, including the number 2 seed, and also in that a squad in the number 2 seed in a squad in Tennessee that some people thought was going to end up trying to make a little bit of a run. Washington,
especially how they played us earlier in the year too.
Yeah. They played well in that Saturday game against Oklahoma. So that was a great walk-off win, by the way. That was another great moment.
That Jada Coleman
home run against Tennessee. I blew a vocal cord that day.
I think we all did.
It was. I can't even begin to tell you how awesome it is to see the parity in softball. But then in that, how tough it makes it to go out and repeat and do what they did. So I love the way that things panned out. I don't know if we have the best 16 teams, but we have a pretty good group of 16 in Oklahoma. They've got a rough one against UCF coming in. So it's wild because, hey, this team has done everything expected of them. But if they don't end up in the Women's College World Series, and then if they don't end up in the championship series, even without Jordy Ball, it's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? And that's just, it's a wild level of expectation.
Hey, so one of the things I did want to ask you just real quick to get your thought process on, one of the things that I have been super high on, me personally, this season has been a good saying of it's OU softball and then it's everybody else. So we're number 1, everybody else is competing for number 2. What do you feel about that? I mean, do you agree? Do you disagree?
I agree. And if I had my reading glasses here, I'd be able to go more in depth. But I honestly think, look at who everyone told us was number 2 this year. Florida State. Where are they? Golfing.
Tallahassee.
Alabama. Montana Fouts. Boy, Oklahoma doesn't want anything to do with Montana Fouts. Well, Alabama struggled putting the ball in play. They struggled getting hits. Their offense stagnated down the stretch. Where are they? They're home. Well, Oklahoma doesn't want Tennessee. I mean, we could go down this laundry list of teams, and it's wild because, the 2 teams that, well, I mean, there's not a single team here that anyone even considered in Oklahoma's class. UCLA at times, but they stumbled in Pac-12 play. Virginia Tech at times, but I kind of think as we get down to it, they're a one-pitcher wonder right now, and that's amazing. But you don't have to worry about them until the championship series, possibly. I'll tell you what, the funnest matchup could end up being, OU. And again, I'm getting way ahead of myself. But when you start thinking about the Women's College World Series, an Oklahoma-Arkansas game would be something else. And I think that's the team that is probably the second best in college softball. I saw Joey Helmer at OU Insider throw this out on Sunday, and I agree with him. I mean, if I'm filling out a ballot, Oklahoma is my unanimous number 1, and Arkansas is there at number 2. So it's tough. It's tough, but it's right. It's OU versus everyone, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah. So, talking about, I think that regional leading up, we had a really good game against Prairie View A&M. Then we had the A&M game where it was 3-2, and everybody's like, "Oh well,
what's wrong?"
Oklahoma's offense, and stuff like that. And then, offense, woke up, so to speak, and kind of silenced some doubters there. So, give us a little bit of your thoughts on the regional before we preview the UCF matchup.
Yeah, it's funny, Drew, because I didn't want anything to do with Nebraska, Missouri, or who else were they projecting to come here to the region? Well, let's just say those 2. And it's wild because, I mean, neither one of those teams ended up getting out of their regional. And when I saw Texas A&M coming here, I was like, good draw for Oklahoma, because I knew they were better than Minnesota. And, Prairie View A&M was a gritty-gutty team, but they had a 19-game losing streak at one point this year. So, but when A&M when Oklahoma only won 3-2 on Saturday, even I was a little bit concerned with what A&M had done with the Sooner hitters. And so I spent all that Saturday night, I was going over numbers and looking at, I was trying to come up with this theory, and I'm still working through it. Of course, 20 zip kind of ruined it a little bit, but that Oklahoma had struggled in really closing out series. And you go back Oklahoma State on the Big 12 championship game, right? Oklahoma State that Saturday before, they didn't hit the ball well. In fact, I think they only had 3 or 4 hits that whole game. Thankfully, one of them was a Jocelyn Alo grand slam. They lost their Saturday game to Texas. Baylor in the series finale, should have beat them. There was a game against UAB that was like a 2-zip game. That was the final game in a series. Go back even earlier in the season, the Utah game. It didn't make – it was a 2-1. So I was trying to figure out what it was about. Hey, why is it on – if it was a Saturday into the series or if it was a Sunday into the series where this team doesn't seem to slam the door? Is it runners left on base? Is it runners in scoring position? Is it 2-out hitting? And so I decided to table it all. And then after – the win, I assume they're going to beat Texas A&M. We'll go back through and see what the numbers look like. Well, let's just say 20-0 ruined the grading curve on that. It completely changed everything on that front.
Yeah.
So to me, that was one of the biggest statements on Saturday, on Sunday, was what Oklahoma did. Virginia Tech had to go to an if necessary game. Oregon State upsets Tennessee. Stanford upsets Alabama. Oklahoma State, listen, give North Texas credit. They did some wild things to make it 2-zip. Arizona with the upset. Mississippi State with the upset. Washington gets a win. Texas has to push them to an if necessary game. You start looking around college softball and you realize, man, that was pretty incredible what we saw from Oklahoma this weekend with 37 runs in 3 games. So I think they answered a lot of critics. Now, you still want Jordy Ball back. You still hope she can go. But in everything that we just talked about offensively, there was nothing more reassuring this weekend than to see the way that Hope Troutwine and Nicole May pitched, because they were awesome.
Yeah, they were. And I think that was a big concern, I think, for everybody, was not having Jordy in the circle. What can we do with those 2 pitchers? Because, they've kind of struggled a little bit here down the stretch, just a few games. And so that couldn't have worked out any better for us. And I think in that regional was able to rest Jordy, kind of get her, trending towards coming back, stuff like that. And then both of those ladies, shut the door and pitched really well, bringing us into now the super regional against a tough UCF team, 49-12 overall, 16-2 in the conference. Here's a big stat for you. I know you like stats. They are 13-3 on the road, and obviously this is a road series for them coming up. What do you see out of them? I know they got 2 really good pitchers with some good ERAs, and then hitting, they're around 300 as a team. Talk about the Knights.
Well, let's go ahead and let's just start with one of the most important things about this team, and that is how well coached they are. They have a really good, smart, relatively young staff. And it's kind of crazy because in Cindy Ball Malone, this is, I was trying to pull it up here real quick before you asked. She's only the 2nd head coach in the history of the program. Her first year was 18. So, that shows you how much consistency they've had in the head coaching position, and she came to them from Boise State. She's had success all over the country, at Washington, at Cal, at CSUN. So they're really, really well coached. That's number one thing that stands out. And number 2 is they can mash. I know they've got a couple of really good pitchers, and tomorrow is an opportunity where I'm sitting down with their play-by-play guy to go truly in depth and kind of understand. But just, you look at some of their scores, and, they had a 15-10 game against Texas earlier this year. They put 11 runs on James Madison, a lot of double-digit scoring games. In the AAC championship game. They scored 11. So I don't know. You know, Michigan has really good pitching, and they've scored 12 runs on them in 2 games.
Yeah, they took them 3-2 in the 11 innings, and then 9-4 to advance. So they,
But I and again, we'll see what Jordy's availability is. But I think that this is going to be a Nicole May kind of a weekend.
Yeah,
I really do. And I think with how Nicole looked on Sunday and kind of her style and how she throws and what she throws, I think it's a tough matchup for UCF. Now, you know this much. They're not a team that if you score 6 runs, you kick your feet up and you're like, we're good. You know, they have the potential. They have the bats where they can come back on you. But good defensive team, well coached, good pitching, really good hitting. It's probably, I would say, for the higher seeds, the toughest matchup that's out there in the super regionals. Oklahoma State's got a tough one with Clemson. I think Va Tech's getting one of the hottest teams in college softball in Florida. And UCLA's not getting any favorites with Duke. So count me in that group that expects Oklahoma to win, but I think it's going to be very similar to the Washington series last year. I think it's going to be some tight games.
No, yeah, 100%. So now that we have, completed the season and we have a better idea of both teams of last year and this year and can make some comparisons, what are you seeing from Nicole May from last year and to her progression of this year?
Well, first of all, I think what you're seeing is someone who is just brimming with confidence. And, some might say that would be considered a little bit of a challenge, right? Because, she maybe thought she'd be the ace this year, and then Jordy Ball comes in and becomes that. But Nicole May, and I'm just full disclosure, I think the world of her family. Her mom, Charlene's a rock star. Her dad's a great dude. She's got a younger brother who I think is kind of done with softball, but he went with us on the trip to Hawaii, so it was really cool to get to meet him finally. Right, so tough having to travel to Hawaii with your family. Right?
Hey, if you ever need a fill-in, I'll go, I guess.
You guys got it. But I absolutely love I love to death her demeanor. And so I used to work in Tulsa. Well, I mean, I still have a show in Tulsa, but when I worked in Tulsa radio for the longest time, one of my, and I'm using this analogy to talk about Nicole, one of my bosses got fired, and he's had a great career now. He's moved on doing political talk, and he said, I knew that my wife had my back because she never cusses. And whenever I called her to tell her that I had been fired, she was like, F your boss. And so when you know somebody that doesn't cuss and they drop a bomb, you're like, oh, it's on, let's go. So when you know someone that's not overly fiery, right? That's not, a fist pumper. That's more like if a Bill Belichick is over there pumping his fist, you're like,
what's going on?
What's up? So when Nicole May does that, like she did on Saturday, that's that moment where you're like, okay, all right. And
it's on. Yeah.
I think she's done it a couple times, and you don't want to overuse it, right? But when you see that, and I think what Jordy does is contagious. So I think that's been really cool to see, is that emotional side of her come out. It's good to see. And I think there were times this year where maybe, she's battled through some things injury-wise. Maybe she wasn't 100%, but man, she looked great on Saturday. And then you mentioned Nicole May. I'll just go ahead and talk about Hope Troutwine, if you don't mind, because you talk about someone who has just been an incredible fit. I mean,
yes,
yeah, she's good.
She's good. She's funny. Yeah. She's smart. She's got a great personality. She's everything you would want in a daughter, in a friend, in a pitcher. She's pretty special. So
yeah, we had her on the show a couple weeks ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, amazing. She's incredible. Yeah, she's one of our favorites for sure. She's great.
When we went to Hawaii, we got split up at an airport, and you think about that's just the third, fourth series of the year. So I really hadn't had a chance to meet her, and I was just talking to her at the airport, and sometimes you can have those awkward conversations with people when you haven't talked to them, and you're not. It's nothing wrong with anyone. It's just you hadn't really met, you hadn't really talked, and it was as fun and as cool of a conversation as I've ever had with anyone. And you think about it, she broke every record at North Texas and in Conference USA. So all of this is a little different, right? Whenever you're pitching in front of 7,000 fans at a Big 12 tournament, and you're getting ready to pitch in front of 15,000 fans at the Women's College World Series, you hope. So I think she's adjusted well, and she's done a good job in really taking to the expectations at Oklahoma. She's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of pitching too, I think a lot of people are wanting to see what's going on with Jordy. What are your thoughts there? And could we see her in the Super Regional?
Yes. But here's the thing. So as we tape this, right, it's a Monday. It was a voluntary day for Oklahoma. They have their practice, and they start getting into prep tomorrow or Tuesday. And I think these 2 days are pretty big to see if she can go this weekend. And it's going to be tough. But I told on my radio show, I said as soon as it was kind of revealed that she was out, that I was 100% positive that if they get to the Women's College World Series, she'll pitch. That ratcheted up a little bit whenever I heard that her x-rays looked really good, but it ratcheted back down a little bit for the Super Regionals whenever, I kind of watched her. And I think everyone that was there at some point was watching her, and maybe how she fielded ground balls, or did she ever fist pump with her right hand? I mean, we got some sleuths that cover college softball now, guys. I mean, Drad people emailing me. They're like, I saw the video of her at Academy, and everything she's holding up is with her left hand. Is something going on? So and that was before we even knew that she was going to miss the Big 12 tournament. So I'm a big believer that, there's certain people that are superhuman, right? Adrian Peterson comes to mind. People that have an injury and you're like, well,
Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods comes to mind and I'm not trying to put her in that category, but for as many great athletes as I've seen, there might not be many as regimented, as routine oriented, and as just talented as Jordy Ball. So I think she's kind of got a little bit of different DNA. And I'm telling you what, I think she could have easily said, I'm done. I think it could have been easy for her to say, we're not going to do this, but she wants to be out there. I mean, I don't think Jordy, I hope you don't mind me saying this. I hope you don't mind me trying to speak for you. But I think in the research that I've done and being around her for, what are we on, 53 games this year and several road trips, she's a baller, man, and she wants to be out there. So I know it's killing her. I know she's going to do everything she can. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see her pitch this weekend, but I would feel really confident if Oklahoma ends up in the Women's College World Series next week that she's going to go.
Well, and the reason why I feel the same way is because that first Texas game, right? She pitches the ball pops up, and she watches it and then just proceeds to fist pump. And it's like, man, like she's got passion. Like this girl is legit. And she reminds you of like, I don't want to compare her to him, but she reminds you of like a girl version of Baker Mayfield, to where she's got that, insane DNA, and she's got OU DNA. And not only, she's just got a passion that's unlike anything else. It's amazing.
So I tell this story a lot, but when Jordy Ball is, well, not just on the road, her everyday life is waking up at 5 a.m. to get her homework done. And that's what she does. She's up at 5 a.m. reading, doing her homework. When she's done with her homework, it's to the gym. When she's done with the gym, it's breakfast. When she's done with breakfast, it's the next workout. I mean, this kid is built different. So I'm not trying to put too much on her. I'm not saying, you better play, Jordy. You better play. What I am saying, though, is it would not surprise me at all if we saw her out there. Not the least. She's built different, man.
Yeah, no, she really is. One of the other injuries is I noticed that Kenzie Hansen was limping, right? Has there an update on that at all, as far as, what could have happened or what she's got going on?
Coach Gasso said it in the post game. She's dealing with an ankle issue, and I don't think it takes a Inspector Gadget to kind of see that on Sunday, whenever she got, or Saturday or Sunday when she got an at bat and she grounded out to first, and you watched her run down to first base and you realize, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The frustrating thing for Kinsey is it felt like she was just starting to kind of click a little bit, because I've got some wild numbers here on Kinsey. Kinsey Hansen is my favorite player. I'm just going to say that right now. And so this season, it's been a little bit of a struggle for her. And it's wild because in her first 15 games, Kinsey Hansen was hitting .429 with 4 home runs and 11 RBI. Then she got dinged up, and she was on the Hawaii trip, but didn't play. She didn't play from March 18th and didn't start again until, she DH'd a couple of times, but she wasn't back behind the plate until March 26th. Then she didn't start again behind the plate until March 29th. Since her return from injury, and if you include the at-bat the other night, she's just 8 for her last 58. And that's about 130-ish, as a batting average. So, she went through a 7-game hitless streak where she was 0 for 13. But in the last 4 games, you started to see that Kinsey Hansen we know and love. She had the game-winning hit against Oklahoma State in the Friday game in Bedlam that secured the Big 12 championship. So, again, I know that I could sit here and talk about it all day long, but I'm a little bit more concerned about Kinsey Hansen than I was going into the weekend after watching her swing on Saturday. But again, there's another person that's built different. I mean, Team USA, freak in the weight room. She is just awesome, and she's going to do everything she can to be out there. I don't know if she'll be able to catch again this year, but you got a pretty salty plan B with Lindsey Elam if Kinsey can't go.
Well, and the way that she's been able to hit the ball hard and contribute at the plate too, and there's she's the captain for a reason, and so I have no doubt that 3-year captain. So I have no doubt that Lindsey Elam can come through for us. So give us, I know we're all picking OU to win, but what is your feeling coming out of the Super Regional? Is it a sweep? Do we force a game 3? What are your predictions for the 3-game series, Super Regional?
I think the first game is going to be really tight. I think UCF is a very gritty team, and gritty teams have given Oklahoma problems. Gritty teams give everyone problems, to be honest. But I really am a firm believer that this team is a phrase I've used a lot. This team is built different. And I like UCF a lot. And if UCF was in any other Super Regional, I'd probably be picking them to go. But I think it's a 2-game series. Oklahoma, since I've been calling games since 2016, so that's in seasons that we've had post-season 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 5 straight Super Regionals that have been 2 in barbecue. So that's kind of how I feel. I think Oklahoma is going to go out and roll this weekend, and there'll be a tight game in there. There will be. And UCF is really good, but I fully expect Oklahoma to roll into the Women's College World Series and have a first-round game against Arizona State next week.
Hey, so in speaking from somebody that has called a lot of games, there is a lot of alumni, OU alumni, OSU, a lot of schools that have had people come on and call the games. What are your thoughts on that? Because I love it. I think it's awesome to have a girl that's been there, done that, and can.
Well, and then on the big stage as well, like ESPN.
Yeah.
You see Aaron Miller, you see how awesome is that?
So cool. And I think it's a tough spot because, I don't want to speak for Aaron or Michelle Smith as an Oklahoma State alum, or Amanda Scarborough, or any of where was Amanda? A&M or UCLA, wherever they were. And Jen Schroeder, UCLA, that calls games. Nicole Mendez was calling the Orlando Regional. I feel like sometimes that feeling is that you have to be overly critical to prove that you're not a homer.
Yeah.
And that's the only drawback that I have is, you almost feel like you're burdened with, and, Dusty, I think, deals with this on the football side, right? To where you almost feel like if you say anything nice about your team, then the automatic thing is, well, of course he's going to say that he played there. Or of course she's going to say that she played there. But it's hard to turn off your allegiances. I mean, kudos to those who can do it. I can't. I couldn't imagine calling a Chiefs Raiders game and someone saying, you've got to be impartial. I'm like, I quit. I can't do this. Right. You got to go call OU Texas, but you got to be impartial. I mean, listen, as the $1 Million Man said, everyone has their price, but it'd be really tough. So it's not easy, but I think for the analysis that you get, it's worth it. Right.
Yeah.
Michelle Smith gives you great analysis, even if it's Oklahoma State playing Kentucky. I don't think she's biased towards OSU. Dusty, I just use him because I know that as a former OU guy, he's called some OU games. He gives great analysis regardless. It doesn't matter where you're from. You're always going to root for your team, but it doesn't take away from your ability to look at a game objectively and say, this needs to be better. That needs to be better. This person didn't do their job. This person has to do their job better. And I think if, some might say, well, you're going to make your coach mad. I think most coaches would want you to call out if something was wrong.
Like you said, it's a double-edged sword, because if you say something negative then about your team, you're like, oh, well, what are you doing? You're an OU alumni or whatever.
I just talked to Aaron about that.
Yeah. And then so people, it's like, if you want to please everybody, go sell ice cream. It's like,
right.
So it's hard. And kudos to them, because there's no way I could do it. I'm like, if I'm calling an OU game, I'm going to be straight up, all right, I think Oklahoma's going to win. And they're going to be like, well, you're one and done. So
that's right. It's tough. It's not easy.
It could be OU football versus LSU in the playoffs, and I'd still be like, oh, yeah, we got this one. And then everyone's looking at me like, what happened? I'm like, nah, we got it. Comeback season.
We got it. We're good. Comeback season.
Still believe.
Third quarter, down by 60. We're still in this game.
It's fine. Like, we're good. No, hey, so kind of switch gears a little bit, and I feel like this one's going to throw you off. So prepare. What is your favorite food?
Well, right now I'm hungry. So it's anything that's in front of me. I love wings.
Okay.
I love wings. Yeah. Like Wingstop. And I'm not picky. There's some people that are like, oh, the best wings are here. I'm like, no, wings are wings, and I'm a firm believer there's no such thing as bad barbecue.
Like traditional boneless, like what's your poison?
Don't care.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I think we try to get a little bit too creative. I think it's okay to just go with a traditional. You got a house sauce. Let's go. I'll try it out. But I'm a big wing guy. I'm in a never-ending want to eat healthier. And so with that, I guess I would say I love chicken Caesar salads.
Yeah, right here too.
Hey, so I have like a kind of controversial question for you.
Go ahead.
Boneless wings, right? Would you say they're pretty much just chicken nuggets, but with sauce on them?
Don't care. I don't have a take on it. You can call them what you want. I'm going to eat them. That's the people, and I understand foodies get all mad, and that's fine. I don't care. Yeah. But I like to eat. If you're going to feed me something and say it's a boneless wing, I'm not going to complain. I'm like, I'll eat it.
Come on,
get it in, get it in my belly. I love Hideaway Pizza. If I'm in Tulsa, I love going to the Brook and getting my buffalo chicken tenders. I love sushi. Take me to In the Raw, and I can eat sushi for every single meal.
Hey, next time we're hanging out, it's on me. So,
dude, I'm telling you what, go see Cody at In the Raw and just say, hook me up, Cody. Let's make me some of your favorite rolls. It's so cool to go to a sushi restaurant. I am the worst person to ask about food because I don't have, the only thing I won't eat is like cucumbers.
Yeah.
And I won't put tomatoes on my hamburger. And Poppy Jim Gass always makes fun of me. But yeah, there's not much I won't eat. And the only thing that stopped me is because I'm older now, right? I'm 47, is I can't eat a lot of fried food because I get horrible heartburn. So that's about the only thing that stops me from eating what I want to eat anymore is my age.
Yeah. I never thought this may sound funny because Christian, you're younger than us, but I never thought I would get to the day where I'm like, pass me the Rolaids, you know, like I gotta take a Pepsi, or I gotta take something before I eat. I feel like an old man, and
I eat what I want when I want, and I can go work out afterwards.
I used to be able to do that, man. We used to go whenever I was in college. I was thinking about this the other night. We drove by a McDonald's, and I love McDonald's. I'm one of those, but I haven't eaten it in probably a decade. But we used to, every Sunday morning, we'd go get a double quarter pounder with cheese, a large fry, and we'd eat it. If I did that today, I'd be done the whole day. I was like, I'm out. I can't.
That's exactly how I feel.
So yeah, I love food, man. And I hope I get to the point where I love healthy food more than I do. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. Maybe I can start liking kale a little bit more than I do right now.
Yeah, I don't know, but hey, hopefully we can meet up maybe at the College World Series and have something good, and then go watch our girls.
Well, hey, the crazy thing is I will be there all week. Regardless if Oklahoma's there or not. I'm back doing Westwood 1 game, so that's pretty exciting. But yeah, it's going to be fun, and I fully expect Oklahoma to be there, and fully expect them to be playing in that early session on Thursday. Can't wait.
100%. Hey, Chris, man, we really appreciate you for coming on, man. And sorry if we took too much of your time, anything like that. But again, told you last time, you are always welcome on the podcast. Guys. Maybe we'll have a preview of next season. Maybe we'll do this like a every year kind of thing.
Get his take on football in the fall, stuff like that. Hey, anytime you want to come back, we love you. You're one of our favorites.
You're my guys. I appreciate it. Thanks. And call anytime. Now I get to go reorganize a refrigerator. Thank you for allowing me the time to delay that as long as I could. Thanks, dude.
You're welcome. Hey, and on the way back to the refrigerator, if you get lost, man, just make sure you return to the tailgate.
That's right. Return to the tailgate. See you guys.
See ya.
That's been everything on the Anything You podcast with your boys, Chris and Drew. We really appreciate you guys for stopping by. We hope you enjoyed that softball recap of the season and what's to come with our boy Chris Plank. And that's all I got. Drew, you got anything you want to leave the people with?
Hey, as always, it's always a good time when Chris Plank is with us. He's one of our favorites. But hey, if you haven't yet, I don't know what you're doing, but get down here and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave us some comments, like we said in the Sooner summary. We love and value your comments. If you guys want to see something, or you want us to try to get an interview with your favorite whoever, let us know, man. We love your feedback. As always, get over to hornsdownshop.com. Get that merch. A lot of good stuff coming out. Support our boy Deshaun White, and pick you up one of those If Lost Return to the Tailgates, and support us as well. Hey, I'm ready for this super regional. I'm excited. Let's go sweep them and get into the College World Series. What do you say?
Hey, let's win this natty, baby.
Let's go. Boomer.
Sooner.